What is up, guys? Welcome to the CageChat MMA. We're here to have a little bit of a discussion about the interim heavyweight title, of course, between Ciryl Gane and Derrick Lewis. Of course, this was announced last week after Ciryl Gane's quite magnificent performance against Alexander Volkov, of course. And of course, this was announced Tuesday, Wednesday after the fight. And it caused a lot of uproar. One, because Francis Ngannou had only won the title 3-4 months ago. And because we was expecting Ngannou Jones or Ngannou Derrick Lewis at the point. We was expecting to see Ngannou Lewis 2 in Houston, Texas, of course, at UFC 265. And then all of a sudden, sprung out almost out of nowhere, we got given an interim heavyweight title bout. And a lot of people, were upset about it. A lot of people sort of, were for it and are for it. So I was just, coming on giving a little opinion of what I thought about being created and, what's unfolded since then. Now, of course, Dana White, has come out and spoke to UFC Arabia in the build-up to 264, of course, in his media sort of work and presence that he does in a fight week. And he's gone, you knew this was coming for weeks if we didn't get a deal done. This has happened a million times. This was to UFC Arabia, and he's also gone on, what happens is we run a business and we put on fights every Saturday night, and we needed to do that fight in Houston. We couldn't get the deal done, so we did an interim title fight, which actually absolutely makes sense. So from Dana's point of view, it does make sense, and obviously we have seen interim titles being made before. Maybe not, so, quickly after an undisputed title has been won. But, with Conor McGregor having, a couple of years out, we saw it with Robert Whittaker becoming an interim middleweight champion, having great success, then towards undisputed, becoming an undisputed champion, of course. So it does work, and of course, it seems like for him, we'd been promised a card at Houston. Derrick Lewis, of course, is a Houston native or a Texan native, at least, so he could be fighting his home crowd. It was just against who and for what, rather than, it wasn't going to be a mismatch or a match that we weren't going to see Derrick Lewis in by the sounds of things. And Ngannou, of course, beat Stipe Miocic for the title, and this is where the heavyweight division gets very sticky and very messy in terms of, matchmaking. It can be it's the most difficult to build narratives in, because we've seen a lot of them being played out already. Now, of course, for Ngannou, there was 3 built up, of course, now 4 potentially, but 3 built up, of course. Stipe, the trilogy we saw Jon Jones being, the greatest of all time, or consensus greatest of all time for many, coming up to heavyweight division after taking a long time out at lightweight, vacated about, of course, last September. And he's, much anticipated to make his heavyweight debut. And many think for the heavyweight title, and rightfully so. He's put so much work into this business that his first venture into the heavyweight division should be for that title. And of course, Derrick Lewis. Now, of course, Ngannou has a loss to Derrick Lewis on his resume. The first fight after the original Stipe fight, of course, so you can remember that went down in history as one of the worst fights in the heavyweight division. Now, of course, a lot of that has unfolded, and we've seen Ngannou come back from that a lot better, a lot stronger, a lot more confident. And since then, of course, he's become the heavyweight champion. While Derrick Lewis, he's been putting his work in. He's rightfully the number 1 contender, or at least the number 2 contender behind Stipe and Jones. He's the next in line for that. It seemed to be that was the case. And, Ciryl Gane even mentioned himself before that fight against Volkov, he was told that there'd be an interim bout for him going into this against Derrick Lewis. Now, of course, in Nganou's management, to stick with the champions narrative here, at least Ngannou has told the UFC, no, I'm not ready for this date. Of course, UFC 265 on August 7th, he wants to go in September. Obviously, his management, is a bit pissed off in the fact that Dana's made this interim title bout. And I've got to say that, Ngannou doesn't lose too much here, apart from maybe, 1 extra payday in terms of fighting Lewis and Gane, rather than just fighting either or now with this interim title bout. Of course, he wants to stay active. He had that year out where he fought Rosenstruck and Stipe, and his grievance was, why wasn't the Rosenstruck fight for an interim heavyweight title bout? And yes, he probably does have a point to that. We wasn't seeing Stipe return for quite a while at that point in the fight between DC, and Stipe wasn't we were knowingly going to have a trilogy, but we didn't know when we was going to have that trilogy at the point Rosenstruck and Ngannou fought each other back at 249, of course. So it really is an interesting back and forth between the two. Now, Ngannou, he gets a little bit of an extra layoff, and of course his opponents, going to be decided for him between Gane and Derrick Lewis. I do feel the biggest loser here will be the loser of the interim title bout, because both of these deserve the title shot. Gane 8-0, 9-0 now. Coming off that win against Volkov, he was clearly the number 3 contender, number 2 contender. If you look at the rankings, Curtis Blaydes has lost against Derrick Lewis. Rosenstruck's coming back, but he'd lost to Ngannou already. So it was just a matter of when Gane was going to get a title shot, not if at this point. And there's such a build-up at the top of the division with Jones and Stipe in the mix, of course, that it's hard to decide. You could be waiting two years before you get your title shot if you're going to sit out for inactivity and wait for that title shot, you could say. And neither Gane or Lewis want to be doing that, especially Lewis, who's come towards that latter end of his career. He wants that title shot, pretty much now, or if not within the next 12 months, you could say. So the real loser is whoever loses that interim title back, because I got to go back to the end of the queue alongside Curtis Blaydes and Rosenstruck and work it out from there. Now, they're probably only 2 wins away from a title shot, but it does make it difficult to put your hand up when you want a title shot in this division at the moment. And especially you got the likes of Tanner Boser on their way up, Tom Aspinall on their way up. So if you're in this maybe 4th to 7th spot, you're in quite a tough spot there. But for the winner of that, it's going to be a fantastic payday. It's going to be an interim versus undisputed title. It does make that next fight with Ngannou a lot bigger, because there is something extra on the line. Ngannou's come to this a bit pissed off. Then he should have had a fight there. He wanted to have this moment against Lewis or Jones, and you've got the interim title coming after the heavyweight champion, the undisputed heavyweight champion in terms of Ngannou. And it does just add that little bit of extra spice to this fight, or to Ngannou's next fight, should we say. Of course, if Gane wins this does build a fantastic narrative for the UFC. Ngannou and Gane, former training partners. Ngannou moving over to France from Cameroon, coming in to find boxing and then finding mixed martial arts. Gane, undefeated, both of them chiseled out of stone, in a fantastic shape, fantastic heavyweights. And there's a real narrative there. You got an interim title in Gane and a heavyweight champion in Ngannou, and you stick that into Paris, where MMA is legal now. You sell out that crowd, and it's one of the biggest fights of all time. As is Ngannou Jones, we know, and Ngannou Stipe 3. But Ngannou versus Gane in Paris, there's something beautiful about that. It is the city of romance, and that is just a perfect matchup of everything. Obviously, if it happens in Vegas or in the States, it's still a big fight, but it doesn't have that extra added spice of it being in France. So that is the perfect narrative for them. Of course, if Derrick Lewis becomes the interim title, or the interim champion, should we say, for Ngannou, that still works out, because Derrick Lewis can come into there saying, I'm the interim champion, but I've already got a win over the undisputed champion, so theoretically, I am now the real champion. If Derrick Lewis wanted to play it that way, he could. And obviously Ngannou would have to come back and say, right, no, I'm the undisputed champion, you're the interim champion, you're below me. Look what I've done since you beat me. I've been nothing but active, and I put all these knockouts. I've only spent, 7-8 minutes in the cage since I fought you. You've gone through, a couple of wars since then, a couple of big knockouts since then as well. But it does build up, amazing narratives. Obviously, Jon Jones is looking at here going, where do I fit into this? Do I have to go fight Stipe? Do I have to go fight Curtis Blaydes? It's really an interest about, of course, Curtis Blaydes and Rosenstruck are fighting, of course. So it does sort of, mix up this division in terms of where Jones and Stipe is. Stipe, again, 38, going on 39, maybe this year, next year. He's not getting any younger, and he's coming off a big knockout. He deserves that trilogy bout to make it 2-1, or, to settle the scores as he did with DC. He's underrated that as the greatest heavyweight of all time. And obviously, Jon Jones is there. He could be waiting, 12, 18 months before we see him at heavyweight. He might have to fight as Stipe. Do we get another interim title between Stipe and Jones in 6-7 months after we've seen the winner of this interim title bout against Ngannou? So it is a bit of a mess. This whole division's a bit of a mess, to be honest. But it's coming to that point now where you've got the elder statesman of the division handing over the baton to the younger generation. And we're going through that changing of the guard in this division. So we do need some fresh blood in this division. We need to be careful, or the UFC need to be careful how quickly they're building up fighters. If Rosenstruck went in there, with all this heat and all this attention on him becoming a knockout artist, and maybe that was a bit of his own downfall because he called out Ngannou, of course, and we saw that fight play out. But maybe it's down to the UFC to say, no, not quite yet. We want to build you up to be this sort of competitor. We want you to build you as this kind of star. Same with Ciryl Gane. He's only had 4 or 5 fights in the UFC, 6 maximum in the UFC. He's only been doing the sport 3-4 years. So he's still very new and very raw in this game. To be giving him a title shot now, one, commends Ciryl Gane's talent, but also you have to worry about where could the UFC build him up against the Blades, or give him a fight or 2 more, you could say. But yeah, it is a sticky situation to be in if you're in a heavyweight, and that's why I do believe now is the time to build a 220, 230 pound division. Let's get a cruiserweight division in there. Let's see some of these smaller heavyweights build up their own division, build up their own champion, build up their own league, and have a little more, a few more closer bouts. You could say, you could see the OSPs and the Gustafsons in that division. You could see the likes of Stipe, maybe not coming down to 220 if you make it 220, then, but certainly 230, 240. In that ballpark, you could see him moving down to that division, while you've got the 265 that's in terms of Rosenstruck, Gane, Blades, and Ngannou, of course, himself. You could see them being in that division, and maybe it's time to, split up the heavyweight division, so to speak. So yes, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with the interim title bout? The fact that it is a fantastic bout, take the interim title and the politics aside. Gane versus Lewis is a fantastic matchup. You got the explosive power of Lewis. You got the natured kickboxing of Gane, who's now gone back-to-back 5 rounds this year against Rosenstruck and Volkov. So he's put himself against some of the best in this division and come out they're fairly unscathed in both bouts. And the fact that he's turning around so quickly, about 6 or 7 weeks it will be since his last bout when he walks out in Houston, Texas. The fact that he's going out into Houston, Texas into enemy territory is very commendable for Ciryl Gane. And that UFC 265 card as a whole is absolutely stacked. You've got Nunes versus Pena on there, and you've got Aldo versus Munoz on there as well. So it's a very stacked card without the politics. It's a shame that this has become the talking point of what could be a very successful night. Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa's on there. So it's a fantastic card, and it's been had added this cherry on top that there is a title bout on there. Of course, 264 is not a title bout, so I can see why the UFC don't want back-to-back pay-per-views with non-title bouts, but they can get away with it with Conor McGregor because they're not going to get the revenue in because it's a McGregor fight card. And you can do the same with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, because you're going to get the revenue and you're going to get that story told and those seats sold anyway. With this fight, maybe having that interim heavyweight championship, they thought would be the best point for business, and maybe they missed the mark here, but maybe they've added us an extra incentive for both Derrick Lewis, and Ciryl Gane when the time is to come to fight the undisputed champion. And it also sorts out Ngannou's next bout as well, without the issues of Jon Jones and Stipe coming in there. So yes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to give this video a like, of course. Share it around on social media. Make sure to follow us on social medias at CageChat MMA. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Of course, UFC 264 is days away, and we will be doing a lot of content for that. The preview will be out on Friday, of course. So make sure to stick around for that. And I'll see you guys on the next